The most disciplined people you know are not stronger than you, and they are not fighting harder against temptation. They have simply stopped relying on willpower at all. It sounds backwards, but the research points to a surprising truth. The people who seem to have endless self-control usually owe it to something other than raw mental strength. They have learned a smarter trick, and anyone can copy it. Once you see it, your own struggles start to make sense. Stay until the end, because the simple method that replaces willpower is something you can set up in just a few minutes. First, let us bust the biggest myth about discipline. Most people believe that highly disciplined people are born with a powerful supply of willpower, a kind of inner muscle they can flex on demand. So when those people resist junk food or sit down to work, we assume they are simply gritting their teeth harder than the rest of us. That picture is mostly wrong. Here's what the research actually shows. Studies in behavioral economics and psychology suggest that disciplined people do not spend their days locked in fierce battles with temptation. Instead, they quietly arrange their lives so those battles rarely happen in the first place. They win by avoiding the fight, not by being tougher in it. The secret, in short, is that they design better environments. Rather than trusting themselves to resist a tempting thing in the heat of the moment, they set up their surroundings ahead of time so the tempting thing is not even there. They change the situation, not just their attitude, and the situation does much of the work for them. Why does this work so well? Because willpower is unreliable. It rises and falls with your mood, your energy, and your stress. When you are tired or upset, your willpower runs low, and that is exactly when temptation tends to win. Relying on it is like building a house on sand. Sometimes it holds, and sometimes it gives way at the worst moment. A designed environment, on the other hand, does not get tired. If the junk food is not in your house, you cannot eat it at midnight, no matter how weak your willpower feels that night. The environment holds firm even when your mind does not. That is why it beats raw effort over the long run, every single time. One of the most powerful tools in this approach has a name. It is called a pre-commitment device. The idea is to lock yourself into a good choice in advance, before temptation ever arrives, so that when the tempting moment comes, the decision has already been made for you. You bind your future self to the smart path while your mind is still clear. Here is a simple example. Imagine you want to focus during your workday but you keep getting pulled into distracting websites. A pre-commitment device would be to use an app that blocks those sites before your workday even starts. Once the block is on, you cannot cave in the moment you feel bored, because the choice is already locked in. Willpower never enters the picture. Notice how clever that is. You are at your strongest and most clear-headed before the temptation hits. So you use that strong moment to set a trap for your weaker, future self. When the weak moment arrives, there is nothing to resist, because the path has already been closed off. You beat temptation by planning ahead of it. This idea shows up everywhere once you start looking. Someone who wants to wake up early puts their alarm across the room, so they have to get out of bed to turn it off. Someone who wants to save money sets up an automatic transfer the day they get paid, before they can spend it. Each one is a small trap set for a future moment of weakness. The key insight is to stop trusting your in-the-moment self. That version of you, the one standing in front of the open fridge at night or the glowing phone at bedtime, is tired, emotional, and easily swayed. The disciplined approach is to take the decision out of that person's hands entirely, by making it in advance when you are calm and clear. So how do you start using this in your own life? Begin by spotting your weak points. Think about the moments where you usually give in, whether it is late-night snacking, endless scrolling, or skipping a workout. Those repeated failures are not signs that you are lazy. They are just spots where you have been relying on willpower instead of design. Then, for each weak point, set up one small barrier in advance. Move the tempting thing out of reach, add a step that makes the bad choice harder, or use a tool that locks in the good one. You do not need to fix everything at once. Even one well-placed barrier can quietly remove a daily fight you have been losing for years. The beauty of this approach is how calm it feels. Instead of waking up each day braced for a war against yourself, you build a life where the right choices are simply the easy ones. You stop white-knuckling your way through temptation and start gliding past it, because you removed it before it could reach you. Once you see this idea, examples pop up everywhere. A person who wants to eat better keeps tempting snacks out of the house entirely, so the choice is made at the store, not at midnight. Someone trying to read more leaves a book on their pillow and their phone charging in another room. Each is a small trap set in a calm moment to catch a future weak one. Part of why this works ties to something called decision fatigue. Every choice you make in a day uses a little mental energy, and by evening that energy runs low. That is when willpower fails and bad habits sneak in. By deciding in advance and removing choices, you save your limited energy and protect yourself from the moment when you have the least left to give. Your surroundings quietly shape you more than you realize. The layout of your kitchen, the apps on your phone, and the setup of your desk all nudge your behavior dozens of times a day. Disciplined people treat those surroundings as a tool. They arrange their space so the good choice is the easy one and the bad choice takes real effort, then let the environment do the nudging. Other people can serve as a pre-commitment device too. Telling a friend your goal, joining a group, or agreeing to meet someone for a workout all lock you in through gentle social pressure. When backing out means letting someone else down, you are far more likely to follow through. You borrow strength from the commitment instead of leaning on willpower alone. The smartest move of all is to set good defaults. A default is what happens automatically when you do nothing. If your savings move on their own, saving becomes the default. If healthy food is the easiest thing to grab, eating well becomes the default. By making the right thing the automatic thing, you win even on the days you are too tired to try. So the next time you feel weak for giving in, remember that the answer was never to grit your teeth harder, but to quietly arrange your world so the hardest choices were made long before the tempting moment ever arrived. If this changed how you think about discipline, subscribe to Top Shelf Galore. Like and share with someone who keeps fighting their willpower.